Hello, Facebook family. It's been a short minute since I've been on here. Been working and just not doing this for a little bit. But there's I've been collecting stuff to do videos on. I've just not got the videos done yet, and I've been putting assets together. But if you like the videos, please like, subscribe. You can ring the bell. And this video today is about the minimum wage. It's a topic that was brought really into the forefront in 2015 by Bernie Sanders. He was part of his platform was to increase the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. You know, he has this push for a living wage for workers, which I agree with 100%. If you have a job, if you're working full time, you should make a living. Everyone should be given the respect of being able to work for a living and earn a living. And so now Biden's pushing to try and do the minimum wage hike to $15 per hour. Congress, the Democrats in Congress, seem to be on board with it. And I wanted to go over a tweet from Boebert. She's a Republican, one of the new Republicans in Congress from the state of Colorado. She's one of the two QAnon congresswomen that got elected in 2020. It's Lauren Boebert there from Colorado, who the tweet's from. And then you have Marjorie Taylor Greene, the absolute nightmare from Georgia's 14th district. And this tweet was put out by Boebert, where she's trying to say that she's got her start working at McDonald's. That job doesn't exist if the minimum wage is raised to $15 per hour. And she's trying to say small businesses will be crushed by this arbitrary mandate, and a big business would simply automate many away jobs. Not everything that sounds good is actually good in practice, and she had a lot of responses to her tweet, as you can see, and I mean, the responses are absolutely true. It's she had one person saying, "I'd rather pay you $15 per hour for a job you're actually qualified for than your current salary, which overcompensates you for being in over your head," which is true. Yeah, McDonald's won't have employees from now on. People will get their food from ghosts, robots, gibbons. And another tweet response was, "Is your congressional staff simply bad at their jobs, or do they just secretly hate you?" Which are all reasonable responses to what Boebert was saying. I mean, she is ridiculous with her tweet. And it shows that she, one, is in over her head. She don't know what she's doing. She's one of these Republicans that are throwing 1,000 things against the wall, seeing if anything sticks. And so let's talk about the minimum wage. You know, her claim, she got her start working at McDonald's, and she claims that job doesn't exist if the minimum wage is raised to $15 per hour. Economists have already gone over, back when it was discussed in 2015 when Sanders was doing it, it was brought up how easy it would be for McDonald's to raise the price of a few products a matter of a few cents and cover the minimum wage hike to $15 per hour without McDonald's. If McDonald's customer level stays the same, they raise a handful of products by a few cents per product. McDonald's profits stay the same with the minimum wage going up $15 per hour. I mean, the math has already been worked out over and over again on that. It's easy. And the thing is, Without the minimum wage going up, you know what's going to happen? Those products are still going to cost more. A sandwich at McDonald's costs more now than it did 5 years ago. It costs way more than it did 10 years ago. I mean, that's one of the things is inflation continues to rise. And one of my issues, another video I need to get working on is discussing wages in America, because one of the problems we've had for the last 50 years is inflation rising at a rate higher than wages rise. And when you have inflation going up, that's the cost of the goods and services going up at a pace higher than the wages are going up, you end up with some people being in a situation where they can't afford the goods and services. They get priced out of markets. And that's what you're having more and more. People getting priced out of markets. There are people in this country working full time who can't afford to buy a new car. You know, I mean, I'm all for going electric. If everybody had an electric car, that would be great. Electric cars are pricey, and not everybody can afford them. But she's claiming that McDonald's wouldn't exist if the wages went up. Oh, wages have gone up over the years. McDonald's still exists. McDonald's thrives. They have a lot of business. And the franchise owners that own McDonald's franchises and chains of McDonald's franchises are wealthy. They're very wealthy people. They're not struggling. They're not going to have a difficult time raising the minimum wage. And another thing I wanted to go over is the actual data on minimum wage, because this is one of the areas where people run into problems with, is not actually knowing the data on the minimum wage. You know, you have some people that argue, and I've had people tell me, you know, minimum wage was created for teenagers living at home, working a job while they're in high school. That is not why the minimum wage was created. The minimum wage was created in the 1930s by FDR. FDR had a lot of policies, a lot of things he was trying to do, and along with the minimum wage, issues he was trying to end was sweatshops in the United States. And I mean, I'm not talking about 1600s. We're talking about the 20th century. Early in FDR's time as president, he wanted to end sweatshops in America, because that's what we had. We had sweatshops where the working conditions were horrible, long hours, extremely low pay. You had to basically spend almost every waking hour working just so you could afford to have a place to live and food to eat. You had entire families that had to go to work. Children certainly working. And one of the things FDR wanted to do was to end child labor. He wanted to end child labor, and he had the mentality that, you know what, kids should be allowed to be kids. The reality of minimum wage in America right now, and this comes from the Economic Policy Institute. The average age of a minimum wage worker is 35. 88% are not teens. They're 20 or older. 36% are 40 or older. 56% are women. 28% have children. 55% work full-time. On average, they earn half of their family's total income. That's the reality. You know, on the left side, you have what people think about minimum wage. You know, a teenager who works at home and is trying to earn extra spending money. That is not the reality. The reality is jobs that are being created. There are a lot more minimum wage jobs being created than there are good-paying jobs being created. Plus, it's hard to get. Jobs are hard to get. And good-paying jobs are hard to get. So I wanted to talk about this because of the insane tweet from Lauren Boebert. And that is basically what she did is encapsulated the Republican Party's mentality on minimum wage. It shouldn't be raised because that's teenagers. It's not. It's single mothers. It's families trying to earn a living. There are a lot of people struggling trying to earn a minimum wage. You know, you have the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. And there is not a state in this nation where the cost of living for a single individual with no kids can make a living at $7.25 an hour. Not happening. You know, if you earn that kind of wage, you have to live at home. Even if you're 30, even if you're 40. You have to have some kind of supplemental income from a spouse, from a relative. You have situations where you have multiple minimum wage adults living together, like 3 people that work at a restaurant or whatever doing minimum wage. Will get a 3-bedroom apartment and split it. Split the rent, split the utilities, split the cost to live, because that's the only way they're going to do it. And along with the notions of the minimum wage, I mean, you have also state minimum wages. You know, most of the states in the nation right now, I think there's 29 states, the minimum wage for their state is above the federal minimum wage. The way it's set is you get paid whichever is higher. If you're in a state that has a higher state minimum wage than the federal minimum wage, you get the state minimum wage. And there are a handful of states that still have no minimum wage. I grew up in one of them, Tennessee. Tennessee doesn't have a minimum wage. They just go along with the federal minimum wage. Kentucky, another state that I lived in as a kid, has they go by the federal minimum wage, $7.25 an hour. Kentucky is a very low cost of living state, probably among the lowest in the country. I don't know what state necessarily is the lowest on average cost, but I looked it up for Kentucky just out of curiosity. And the estimation is almost $12 per hour is what's needed for a single individual with no kids to earn a living in the state of Kentucky. If you're working for a minimum wage in the state of Kentucky, you're making $7.25 an hour. That's why the minimum wage needs to be raised. The last time the minimum wage was raised was 2009. It's been almost 12 years. I think it was June of 2009. This summer will make 12 years since the minimum wage was last raised. And, I mean, whoever you are watching this video, just imagine working for 12 years and getting 0 pay raises. 12 years, no increase in your pay. Because you know what's happening in every one of those 12 years? Inflation's happening. The cost of goods and services is increasing while your pay stays the same. And that's one of the reasons why the minimum wage needs to be raised. The other is for the federal government to set a standard. When FDR created the federal minimum wage, it was to create a standard. And that standard was the notion that working Americans should have the respect of earning a living. There shouldn't be anyone in this country working full-time not earning a living. And Boebert's claim with McDonald's is BS. Large corporations can easily afford an increase in the minimum wage. You know, another big argument against raising the minimum wage is the mom and pop businesses, the small businesses, family-owned, family-operated businesses that can't afford it. And my response to that is, if you run a business and the only way that you can stay solvent is to pay poverty wages to your employees, then your business is not viable. It's just not. If you can't, you know, if you have a business that requires you to hire employees, and those employees have to earn poverty wages, your business is not viable. You know, if you had to increase their wages, then you would go out of business. Your business is not viable. It makes no sense to start a business with the idea that I'm going to make money. The people who work for me, I don't know how they're going to live, but I'm going to make money. That's unconscionable to me that you would have the mentality that makes sense in some way. And the other part of that is socialism. If you are some right-wing person that's like, I'm starting a business, my employees are going to get paid minimum wage, and I'm going to make a lot of money, then you are counting on socialism, because you're counting on the social safety net, you're counting on the taxes from the rest of us to supplement your business, because that's what's happening. when your employees depend on the social safety net to help have a place to live, food to eat, all those things that because you're underpaying them, you are counting on socialism for your business. And so if you're some right-wing person that's adamantly opposed to socialism, I've got news for you. There are a lot of businesses that count on socialism because there are a lot of businesses that just pay the bare minimum they have to pay. And plenty of those businesses, the owners, the executives of corporations, they're very wealthy. They're making plenty of money. And they're okay with the socialism for business. And that's one of the things that gets under my skin so much is the right-wing side of politics who are constantly demonizing socialism but relying on it nonstop. All of the bailouts to banks, all of the bailouts this past year during the coronavirus pandemic to corporations, that's all socialism. That is businesses socializing their losses and privatizing their gains. If things are going well and they're making money, they're like, deregulate. Get your hands off of our money. It's our profits. It's ours. We're going to pay bonuses. We're going to do stock buybacks. If the economy is going through the crapper and they're like, oh, we're running out of money. We need money. Socialism, give us money. That's the business. They're in favor of socialism when it helps them. They're opposed to socialism when it helps you. And that's the thing. I mean, everybody should be able to earn a living wage. And if you have a business and you can't afford to pay minimum wage to your employees, then you can't afford employees. You need to work it yourself. You need to make the products yourself, perform the services yourself. You need to do it yourself. Because if you can't pay a living wage, your business is either not viable or not viable with employees. And that's my whole issue with clueless people like Lauren Boebert, who will put out these tweets and get ripped apart because most of the people in this country aren't stupid. We understand math, we understand economics, and we understand the fact that everything's going to go up in price. The food at McDonald's, the prices on that food are still going to go up. That's inflation, and it's constantly happening. And when inflation happens and wage increases don't happen, people fall into poverty. But by all means, leave a message if you want to rant and rave and tell me how stupid I am or I'm some left-wing libtard, go ahead. If you like the video, you can leave a message that way too. But thanks for watching.